Okay, thank you. Yes, that was sent out this evening to my email list. And if anyone isn't on my email list, if somebody wouldn't mind typing my email address in the chat for everybody, edelmanrealty@gmail.com. Anybody who wishes to get a copy of that, be on the mailing list for agendas and other information, please grab that email out of the chat. Thank you. Yeah, somebody's recommending I assign hosting to a couple. Yeah, let's see. If I turn over the hosting, well, hey, things are working at the moment, so I'm gonna not mess with anything at the moment. But if things become a problem again, we'll do that. Thank you for that suggestion. I see Evelyn Andrade has her hand up, and I'm going to ask her to unmute and see if she has.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Three minutes. Yes.
With Supervisor Lawson Reamer's office, and I don't know, I know that item F says SD County Supervisor Representative. I didn't specifically sign up to be on the agenda, so I don't know if that's a general or you have a specific person that's going to be speaking.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who it was, and since I know it's you, when I get to that item, I will definitely come back to you. So thank you for letting me know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, all right, guys, folks, let's keep it moving then. Okay, neighborhood police report. I saw Officer Drat was talking when I was trying to get back in.
You gave it while you were off the air, Eric.
I'm sorry?
Officer Drake gave us a report while you were in transit.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure it was wonderful, and I hope that I'll email her and thank her because I think she left. So I appreciate that happening while I wasn't here and sort of keeping things moving. What a crazy thing to have happen. Okay. All right. So CMR Fire, I don't think we have a rep from them here tonight. Some people are saying they've lost sound. I'm hoping that isn't a widespread issue. Okay. People say they can still hear me. All right. Is anybody here from State Senate? Yes. Oh. Anybody here from State Senator Brian Jones' office? Is Brian Jones still our state senator? I don't know if I don't remember that on the ballot this time. We usually don't have anybody, so I'm assuming we don't have anybody from that office here tonight. Rick Hauptfield from Brian Mainshine's office, are you in the audience? Oh, Julie Drat's still here. Let me just check in with her real quick. Officer
yes,
Drat?
sir.
Yes, did you say everything you needed to say?
I believe so. The only one last thing, I don't know if everyone has seen the information regarding the text to 911 yet that has now been rolled out in the county. I believe it was last week that it got rolled out. What I can do is put a flyer out on nextdoor.com, but I believe it was put out on Facebook and Twitter. And if there's any other questions for me, just please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here, and I apologize for the trouble during your segment.
Oh, no worries. I apologize. They made me host, and I'm working from an iPhone, so I don't think that was going to work real well.
Well, I guess if anybody should have been made host at that point, it would have been you in the position of authority. So that was good thinking on somebody's.
Thank you.
Good thinking on somebody's part. Thank you very much for being here, and as always, we appreciate you. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I don't think Rick is here from Brian Mainshine's office. Unless I don't see him. If he's here, he can pipe up in the chat. Okay, so District 5 Council Representative, Jack, I believe is our guy now. Oh, I see him right there. I see you. Ah, all right. There you are, sir. Hi.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for your time, everybody. So yes, I'm Jack. I'm the new community representative for Carmel Mountain Ranch, Rancho Penasquitos, Torrey Highlands, and Black Mountain Ranch. I'll put that down now. Yes, I started on the campaign with Councilmember Von Wilpert. I was a communications coordinator. So if you were following the campaign, there's a good chance you saw an email or a social media post written by me. I'm a San Diego native, if you couldn't already tell by the Fernando Tatis and Justin Herbert jerseys behind me. Actually grew up in Carmel Valley. So I'm a Torrey Pines graduate and no stranger to all of the changes that we've seen here in Northern San Diego over the last 15 years. But anyways, the council member, she sends her regards. She was supporting our mayor while he was giving the State of the City address. But we'll get her out there, get her out here rather, for one of the next meetings. In the meantime, I'm here with open ears. I've been fortunate enough to meet with some of you already. For those of you I haven't met, I will put my contact information, my email into the general chat. I will also be putting the social media links for Councilmember Von Wilpert in the general chat. There's going to be some good information on those for all of us D5 residents. And we are also going to be launching a COVID-19 resource page that will be housed on our city website under Councilmember Von Wilpert's page on the San Diego City.gov, or San Diego.gov rather. But yeah, that's essentially all I have from the council member's office. She and I and our entire staff are all very excited to get to work. We actually kept on a few members from Kersey's staff, Quentin Grounds and Justin Garver, if any of you are familiar, some great guys. So we're motivated to keep continuity, but also introduce some fresh ideas. That's all I have for you now. I'll take any questions, or if there's a separate time at the end of the meeting, I'll be happy to take questions then. But yeah, that's all I have for you.
Thank you, Jack. Can everyone still hear me okay? Can you hear me, Jack? Okay, good. I turned off my video because I decided that it was probably better for me to have two hands to run the computer portion than it was for you guys to see me. I do see some questions that popped up in the chat and I think this is probably good to direct it to you, Jack. Robert Mallory is asking if there's any status on the city code enforcement compliance investigation with the golf course.
As far as code compliance, I haven't heard anything to that specific end. That's something I can check on with our policy advisor. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, there was an ongoing code compliance. It's basically been ongoing for a while, more than a year, and probably longer than that. So it would be great if you could get up to speed on that and report back to us next month, or just email me when you find out, and I'll get it out to everyone.
Yeah, we still I got to get our policy chief in a room and or in a Zoom chat and really dive deeply into all the specifics going on with the golf course project.
All right, thank you. And I will let everyone know that you Jack did reach out to me early on in the year, maybe even before the beginning of the year, and we had a meeting, and I was happy to meet you, and we're happy to have you. So welcome, and we look forward to working with you over the next while here. Okay, does anybody else have a question for Jack at this point? I'm looking for hands and I'm looking for chat. I don't see any, so I think you might be good for now.
Well, if
Jack?
anyone thinks of anything, just hit me up on the private chat or give me an email. I'll be providing that information right now.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. Okay. Oh, SD County Supervisor, right. There we go. I skipped. She was here, and then I skipped her and now I'm coming back to Evelyn Andrade.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everybody. My name is Evelyn Andrade. I am a policy advisor for Supervisor Lawson Reamer. My focus is land use and environment. So I know I heard you talk about an EIR, so please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns about what's going on with land use and environment. Supervisor Lawson Reaman's really committed to being engaged with the community, listening to your concerns and your needs. I am here to make myself available to you all, and I will also be putting my contact information in the chat for you all to reach out to me, so you guys can email me. Wanted to give you all a couple updates on kind of what her initial focuses are just in these first couple weeks. We've been focused on climate action. I don't know if many of you know that we at today's Board of Supervisor meeting, we actually signed a board letter with Supervisor Fletcher to have a county cap that really has real climate action for the county. We know that San Diegans love the environment and natural resources, so the supervisor's goal is for the county's cap to really be gold standard and be an example for the rest of the nation. And we do want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to see in that climate action plan. Her biggest goal is to make sure we get us to zero carbon in 15 years. It's going to be really ambitious. So let us know on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or email me, set up a time to meet with me if you want to talk further about it. Another one of her big priorities is fiscal policy. So the county's financial policies have not been updated in over 2 decades and don't really reflect the community's needs. And so we are really looking at what is Congress, how does Congress do their finances? This is a really big area of expertise for her. And so she's really wants to prioritize using data, cost benefit analysis, and evidence to determine how we invest tax dollars. And so same thing, we have formed an advisory committee with Supervisor Fletcher, and we really want you all to be participating in that advisory committee. Please do email us your priorities on where you want to see the county invest your tax dollars. Lastly, COVID. The county is currently, everyone in phase 1 is currently getting vaccinated. So medical and healthcare workers, people working in skilled nursing and assisted living facilities. Right now, people can register in advance to make an appointment, and you can go to Petco Park is one of the huge regions, but we are really focused on getting a vaccine location in North County. So that is one of the priorities. We are working with city staff right now to see how quickly and where we can get a location in North County so everyone can start going there instead of having to go down to Petco Park. Please listen for updates about that coming soon. Additionally, I will put a link to sign up to her list so you can get updates on what we're working on. But also, if you do want to get more involved, if you want to volunteer, you can also sign up there. We really want to be engaged. Everyone, she is committed. Everyone on our team is going to be engaged on the community. Our policy advisors, our directors. This is something that is a real priority for her, and really fortunate to be on her team and happy to be here. I will be regularly attending these meetings. If I can't always attend, I'll definitely at least try to pop in for a few minutes. Eric, I did send you an email, but I think I sent it to the wrong email. So I'll be following up with the email that you did put in the chat. And like I said, if any of you want to meet with me, I am definitely here and available. Our goal is to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. So we want to be available to you as a resource. So please reach out with any needs. Thank you. And happy to answer any questions as well.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Evelyn, for our new county supervisor's representative? I'm looking for hands in the participant window, and I'm looking for chat. I don't see any popping up, Evelyn, but are you going to be sticking around?
Yes, I'll be here the entire meeting. Definitely want to hear what your priorities and concerns are. And like I said, if any questions do pop up, please email me, reach out. I am available to you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it, and we will be in touch. Thank you. Okay, so All right. So, and I know the mayor's rep, Stephanie Estrada, has been in touch with me. We did meet. She is busy this evening with the state of the city report. So we're not going to have her here with us this evening, but she has committed to coming and being a part of our meetings. Just this tonight was a conflict. So really looking forward to more support from the mayor's office. That's encouraging. I see Evelyn has put her contact info in the chat, so people can grab that if they wish. And then I will be getting it and sending it out to my list as well. San Diego City Planning Department, Tony Kempton. Is Tony here tonight? I did not hear from him prior to the meeting, so I assume that he is not. And generally, they are not coming unless we have some sort of action item. So I'll reserve any comment on that. Do we have anybody from Scott Peters' office? I don't think so. That's typically the case, and that's fine tonight. All right, moving right along then to Jonathan Frankel of New Urban West. Jonathan, are you there?
I'm here. Good evening, Eric. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Jonathan Frankel with New Urban West. It's nice to be with you. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you had an opportunity to enjoy the holiday. And thank you for this opportunity to come and provide an update to you on the trails of Carmel Mountain Ranch. And tonight I want to specifically provide some information about the city's environmental impact report, or EIR, that was released just prior to the holiday. So Eric, if you can, I have some materials to share tonight. I don't know if you can enable a screen sharing, and I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay. All right. Jonathan is presenting me a challenge. Let's see if I can. I think I can make you. It looks like I can make you a co-host, or I don't know if I can. Well, let me see if I make you a co-host, if that will allow you to share a screen. How does that look on your end?
It looks like it worked.
Well, hallelujah, something's working.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you again, everyone, and we appreciate this opportunity. Tonight, we would like to start by talking about the project timeline. And we've been here for several years now, and we've made advancements at the city, as I think all of you are aware. We've been having the plans have been reviewed by all of the experts at development services, traffic, fire, police, etc. So just wanted to provide, by way of context, here's where we are right now. So we've gone through a lot of key stakeholder meetings, a lot of design review, initiation hearing at the Planning Commission, of course, neighborhood meetings. And now we're at the point where the city has released their draft environmental impact report, and that will be followed by Planning Commission and City Council action on the project. So the focus of my presentation tonight will really be about the EIR process, what it is, what it studies, and how impacts are analyzed for purposes of environmental review at the city. I am not by no means an expert on every last piece of analysis that's in the EIR, and so we would encourage you to read it and get in touch with city staff if you have particular questions about everything that is in the document. So what is an EIR, or an environmental impact report? This report is a city document that discloses a development project's potential environmental impacts and the ways that those effects can be reduced or avoided. And this report is part of a state law called the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA as it's commonly known. And this is a requirement of all projects in the city, of any development project, any type of development, whether it's one like we're proposing here at Carmel Mountain Ranch with homes, or whether it's a school or an industrial site or a warehouse, or any sort of development is subject to this state law that requires the preparation of this type of report. And the report includes comprehensive technical analyses on a number of topics: traffic, air pollution, noise, schools, fire safety, amongst many others. There's a couple of dozen topics that are studied, and there are expert individuals in their respective fields who are responsible for evaluating the city's requirements and assessing the impacts of the project on the environment. So how are impacts analyzed? So when the project comes before the city and the city experts are taking a look at this, what they're doing is they're analyzing the project against objective standards set by the city and the state of California. So I think that it's important to note, and probably one of the most common misconceptions about the EIR process is that somehow the developer, that we set the standards by which we are evaluated. And that's not the case. The city and the state set these standards, and these are predetermined. They're called thresholds. And it's just the point at which, hey, if you exceed this thing, this either numeric threshold or some other sort of qualitative threshold, at that point, you're deemed to have an impact. So those standards are set again by the city and the state. And if a project exceeds these standards, the project is legally required to resolve it. So we have to take action to do everything we possibly can to minimize the extent of the environmental effect. We can't just say, well, there's nothing we can do. We're legally obligated to take every feasible step to address all of the effects of the project. And if that's not possible, sometimes it's not feasible to completely eliminate impacts. The impact is considered significant and unavoidable. It's important to note that simply because a project causes a significant environmental effect does not mean the project can't be approved, or does not mean the project must be denied. CEQA is intended as a disclosure to the decision makers and the public. And so once those impacts are disclosed and the council and the public understand the trade-offs, the cost benefits associated with the project, they are free to make a decision as they see fit, provided other legal requirements are met. So generally there's 4 levels of impact included in the document, and you'll see this as you start looking at it. There's some issues for which there's no impact at all. That means the project has no effect on that issue. For example, agricultural resources are a section that is studied in the EIR, and of course there is no farming that occurs on this property, and thus no impact with respect to that issue. You have some impacts that are less than significant, so they're not exceeding the state or city standards. Some are less than significant with what's called mitigation, just things that we do to reduce the impact, and then others are significant and unavoidable, that the issue studied will result in an impact irrespective of our best efforts to resolve it. So I wanted to just briefly talk on 3 issues that we've heard from the community that have kind of been a principal concern to the community. Of course, there are many others that you have noted, but in terms of environmentally and issues that are studied in the EIR, I wanted to focus on 3 tonight. Firstly is traffic. I think that's probably the most frequently mentioned concern by all residents that we've heard. Wildfire and evacuation, it's closely related to traffic. And then thirdly, schools. Again, this is not intended to be a comprehensive list. Many, many more issues are studied within the document itself, but we did want to highlight just a couple of these issues for you in advance of your review. So we'll start with traffic. So the city studies traffic via 2 methods of analysis. Firstly, there is a method that looks at how many miles people are driving. And that is called a vehicle miles traveled method. And that is a relatively new method. It's been imposed by the state, and the city is required to analyze how many miles are people driving each day when they go to work, when they go to the grocery store, and so on and so forth. This is not the primary concern that we've heard from the community about how many miles people are traveling. And so I'm going to focus tonight on the local mobility analysis, which I think is slightly more germane to the concerns that the community has expressed to us in our few dozen meetings with you over the past couple of years. So a local mobility analysis report analyzes what's called level of service. And it's simply a letter grade assigned to all of our roads and our intersections in Carmel Mountain Ranch. And so it's a study that evaluates performance of our local roadways. There are city standards that are established, and it's basically just like grade school, A, B, C, D, E, or F. And the report looks at the existing performance, what's happening right now, where are the bottlenecks, what happens when you add the project, and then what happens in the horizon year or 30 years from now when you add our project plus other planned and contemplated development projects. And so the LMA looks at dozens and dozens of intersections of roadways, and it assigns these letter grades. If you're curious about what happens when the project comes in to your ability to move about the community and how much delay will be caused by the project, you can look at this report. And the result of the report is a less than significant impact, meaning the project does not result in any unacceptable increases in delay on local roads in Carmel Mountain Ranch. And one of the ways that we do that is by making improvements. So there are improvements that will be made to signal timing. We're installing a traffic signal, and all those improvements that the city is requiring of us are detailed in that report if you're curious about what that will look like. And in all cases, what the report shows, what the traffic engineers concluded is that once these improvements are made, in all cases, the problem areas that are a problem today will be made better through these improvements, and that they will fully address all of the new cars associated with the proposed project. I think one final point on traffic, and one thing that was interesting for us to learn in our conversations with the city is that one of the reasons why the roadways perform fairly well today, obviously there are bottlenecks in locations. I think most of us who drive around there know where those are, but on the whole, especially as compared to other communities, roadways perform fairly effectively. And that is largely the result of the way that the community plan ultimately was adopted and amended. The current community plan that was adopted in 1984 was originally, there was a plan that was proposed in 1981, was the original iteration of that plan. And that plan called for in excess of 7,000 housing units in Carmel Mountain Ranch. It's about 7,200. What happened in 83 was that plan was amended to reduce the number of allowable units. However, when that amendment occurred and the residential capacity was taken out of the plan, the roadway stayed the same. So the roads were designed to accommodate a lot more residential units and ultimately ended up getting constructed. And that's why, relative to other communities, you see the roads perform fairly well. And one of the reasons why there was some additional capacity and ability to accommodate new residential development because of the way the plan was amended and just evolved over time to include fewer residential units than were initially contemplated. So wildfire and evacuation. This section of the EIR looks at whether the increase in homes in this area interferes with any adopted evacuation plan or impedes acceptable response times by first responders. And the document concludes it does not interfere with adopted evacuation plans. Fire personnel can respond effectively and within the time period set by the city of San Diego. The project does not exacerbate or increase wildfire risk to existing residents. And we just wanted to note that a very small portion of the project sits within a very high fire severity zone. And so obviously fire and evacuation is critical for everybody to be able to get out. And the EIR did analyze how the project would impact the community's ability to do so. Schools, a really important issue. We've heard from a lot of people about impacts on local schools. The EIR concludes that this is a less than significant impact. Poway Unified in their long-term projection, their enrollment is actually declining. Year over year in the past 3 years, it has declined at area schools, and they do have capacity. So we did work closely with the school district to seek their input on how students would be accommodated. They've indicated in a letter included in the EIR the district has capacity for area school kids that will be generated by the project. We're also required to pay impact fees to the school district. So there are several $1 million that will be provided to the school, and that can be used as they see fit to make improvements and support other programs, hire personnel, etc. So as Kurt astutely mentioned and others at the beginning of the meeting, you do have an opportunity to get involved. And there's a lot of information on this slide. All of these slides are going to be, I'm going to post them on our website immediately after this meeting. By tomorrow morning, these should be up. This is the information about how to submit a comment on the EIR. You can submit a comment on the EIR via mail, or you can do so much more easily via email, dsdeas@sandiego.gov. I can put that in the chat after this presentation. We have a project number, etc. You should reference the project number in making your comment. You have the ability to comment for the next few weeks. The comment period will close on February 8th. So you have until February 8th to make your comment, and you can email it over to the project planner at the city, and all comments will be responded to. So the city is required by law to review your comment and to provide a response to your comment in the final version of the environmental report. So again, this is the opportunity for the public to participate, and I think this was the kind of primary purpose of the presentation this evening, to make sure you knew how and where to submit your comments, and that comments are being accepted by the city right now. Okay, and with that, concludes our presentation for tonight. Again, the trails@cmr.com is our website. We'll upload this presentation there tomorrow morning, and that will have all that information about how to submit a comment, the project number, and other information. We'll put that right on the top of Get the Latest Information tab on our site. So you'll have it there. We encourage you to take a look at the EIR. And again, to the chair, Eric, thank you so much for having us this evening. And of course, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you. And if you go ahead and stop, let's see if you could stop sharing. Yeah, there you go. And then, okay, it doesn't look like I need to do anything else there. Okay, so I've seen there's been chat questions and comments coming along. But initially, I want to go to the board to find out if board members have questions for Jonathan on this presentation this evening. So let's see, go ahead and let me know in the chat if you need me to unmute you. Kurt, I assume you've got a, Kurt, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you have anything for Jonathan?
Yeah, I had a question. I just kind of put the comment on the chat. When there's only about, I don't want to scare anybody, but there's only about 3,000 pages in this thing. But it's still important that everybody review this as of right now, because we only have 3.5 weeks when this your write-ups are due to the city. And then I'm assuming that's the point of no return as far as any comments on this that will be taken seriously. So everybody needs to understand that. And the other thing, and the question I had for Jonathan was that I didn't really see a architectural site plan or anything except in the pedestrian, I can't remember what it was, pedestrian write-ups, I guess, where it shows little blocks of houses shown around throughout the site. And is that accurate as to how you've done your studies, Jonathan? Is that what's going to happen?
So thanks for your question, Kurt. Without seeing the process exhibit that you're looking at, I don't know that I can speak to that exhibit that you've seen. However, the final design will occur after the council consideration. So there has been no finalized site plan, meaning the precise location of the buildings. That happens at a later phase in design. That doesn't happen during this phase, the initial approval of phase. So that information will be to come.
So as far as the other question I had was, as far as the grading and everything that's shown on the plans, you know, we had asked a lot of other things, but one of them was trying to get some of the lots down and not sticking up in the air in front of all those homes, the existing homes. And there's room on a lot of those lots that are up on the hilltops where you could cascade, you know, the sites a little bit better. You know, we're still wanting 2-story, but if you go to 3 and 4 story was what you're planning, which is horrifying most of us. I mean, we got to do something about the grading anyway. And I was disappointed that you know, that has not been, you know, it doesn't seem like, you know, in the beginning of your explanation of an EIR and you're going through the review process, it's been 2 years, you said. It's not really quite been 2 years, but you mentioned design review, and I don't think there has been a design review. I think there's been a design, this is what you're going to get statement that's been for the last year and a half, but we've never gotten any response or movement from you on any of the requests that we've made. Remember, we haven't been against housing. We've been against just how you've done your planning without even giving any input responses back to us. You know, we've asked for wider buffer zones. We've asked for less housing, less people. You know, the traffic, all these things, and I don't even know how that EIR can say that there's not going to be an impact to the evacuation routes if there's a wildfire. I mean, that's just crazy to me when you only have those narrow entries coming out of some of those places. That's just unbelievable. But anyway, that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, Kurt, thank you. Any other board members with a comment or question for Jonathan right now, understanding that we will probably have a subcommittee meeting on this later this month? I know, and I do see that there's members of the public with questions. I'm just making sure to, any board members want to chime in now, say so in the chat, or if you're unmuted, just holler. John Schroeder. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, Jonathan, I'll just ask the question. I see a number of people have the same question in the chat, so maybe I can just get the discussion going. And this regards to the first item, the first of the three, the traffic. I'm not sure exactly what your slide said. I think it said, what did it say? Was it insignificant? Let's see, insignificant impact for the traffic?
Yes, it was less than significant, John. Less
than significant, yeah. I'm just wondering, because if I look at page 2 of the environmental impact report, and this is the letter that comes at the beginning of it, and there's a paragraph, it summarizes the environmental determination, and there's 3 sections that the environmental impact report lists as significant and unmitigated impacts. And one of them is transportation. So I'm wondering, it seems to kind of conflict with what you were saying. Can you clarify that seeming contradiction to us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, John. And the state has made this more complex, not less, in adopting this new method of analysis with respect to VMT. So John is correct. The project will have a significant impact with respect to VMT. So that is formally now used in the transportation section of the EIR. As I mentioned in the presentation, that really hasn't been the concern that we've heard from the community. There are a lot of interesting policy discussions about climate change and other things related to how many miles people are driving each day. But what we've heard is that people are more worried about evacuations and delays in local roadways, having to sit in traffic. And so congestion was the concern. So the second of the analyses that I described is the local mobility analysis. And that is the report that describes delay and performance of roadways with respect to congestion and delay. So it is true, John, that from a VMT standpoint, there is an impact, but you need to distinguish between vehicle miles and auto delay. They're two separate issues for purposes of the EIR. So when the EIR says there's a significant impact, that's with respect to vehicle miles and not delay.
Okay, yeah, the environmental impact report really doesn't separate into those two categories, so I really can't comment any further at this point.
Yeah, and we're as a community, I don't think we're up to speed on VMT, so I'm not sure how we would know to be concerned about that. But I have become aware that's how the city is now calculating this. Okay, so we've got a number of community questions here. I'm going to go all the way back up. Well, Robert Mallory has several comments or questions. And generally, let's see. So the APNs listed on the EIR have several parcel number errors and duplicate APNs. Is that something that we would address to the city, Jonathan?
Certainly, yeah. Any typographical errors or any other inconsistencies that you see that you wanted to point out, that would be something you can comment on to the city.
Right. Brian Hollinsworth, I'm gonna unmute you for a second here.
All right. How you doing?
Good. How's it going, man?
All right.
Good. So yeah, I've seen a number of things typed here by you, and I figured maybe you just wanted to address them to Jonathan at this point.
Sure. The first question I had is this the first time that this tentative map has been made available to the public through the CIR?
No, Brian, we actually posted a previous iteration of the tentative map on our website probably 4 months ago.
Okay, so September when this detail? I haven't been tracking this project that closely at all, so. But
yes, correct. The full tentative map was posted at that time, and I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but it was a previous iteration.
Okay, I'm just looking at here, like it was created November 14th, 2019. And so the first time it was made available to the public was nearly a year later. And every time we meet, we always ask for more plan and more detail, and you were not willing to provide it. And now we're sitting here looking at this and we're asking questions. And the next question I have is, where's the building footprints? I just got this document, so I haven't had a chance to review the thousands of pages, but is there something in here that shows the building footprints and locations?
Yeah, as I mentioned to Kurt, in response to the same question, the precise locations of all of the structures, it's the second phase of design that occurs after the initial approval of the project.
So how does the council approve a project without knowing the location of these buildings? The biggest concern has been the location of the buildings in essentially people's backyards, right? Where people are going to be, you're talking about 2, 3, even 4-story buildings that erode any kind of privacy that these folks bought into from houses that were built, nearly 40 years ago. How do they make that determination without that information?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a question that I'm capable of answering, Brian. I think that's something you're going to have to ask the city council.
That's the only questions I had.
Okay, Brian. Thank you. There's a number of other statements from folks here. The EIR concluded project would result in significant but mitigated environmental impacts to biological resources, historical resources, noise, tribal, cultural resources, public utilities, whereas significant unmitigated impacts to transportation. Okay, so that's just a long statement about things that it will significantly impact. And I would encourage everybody to read this and write a letter about any specific concern to the city and get it there before February 8. Alan, I'm gonna unmute you real quick and ask you if you have a specific question to address to Jonathan, or whether these are just comments in the chat that you're making.
I guess I had a few comments. You know, the environmental impact report does say that the traffic and circulation is significant impact and unavoidable and not going to be significantly mitigated. And that only stands to common sense, since you're adding 8,228 average daily trips according to the environmental impact report. The Sandag $177 billion plan, which hasn't been approved yet, only offers more buses to Carmel Mountain Ranch. There's no more road widening for the 15. It's built out. There's no light rail or trolley coming out here. The only thing they can do in our area is eventually widen the 56. I just want to say to the public that they may think that they're meeting these legal standards. Maybe they do and maybe they don't, but that doesn't mean it's publicly acceptable to us to add 8,000 average daily trips when you add 3,000 people in 1,200 units. Similarly, the environmental impact report did not mention evacuation times regarding fire. Everybody who lives here knows it took an hour and a half to get out of here. Now you're adding 3,000 people, meaning a minimum of adding 1,500 cars. Nowhere discussed in any of this. We notice this stuff, and we're going to bring it up to the appropriate authorities, and everybody should think about that. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Alan. That was Alan Hahn, for the record. Ryan.
Eric, if I could quickly, Alan, thanks for those comments. I just wanted to point you to section 5.14 of the EIR, Public Services and Facilities. Section 5.14.1 explains existing fire rescue services and does discuss in detail response times and other issues related to evacuations.
Okay, Ryan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you want to ask? Oh, yeah, you have a question here, so I would rather have you ask it than have me read it.
Sure thing. Yeah, Jonathan, are you? You know, I was looking at the maps from before, and it didn't seem like it was specifically addressed in the EIR. It's 695 pages, so I'll take another look. But are you planning? What are you planning to do to reduce the impact of the driveways that are basically facing existing homes, right? If you look at the apartments, complexes that are currently around the neighborhood, hundreds of cars go in and out of there all day, and it's endless noise. People, stepping on the gas, stepping on the brakes, accidents almost happening, headlights and all those. Is there anything to basically not make being that house next to it the most terrible experience ever?
So Ryan, the traffic report does take a look at the distribution of trips. So that includes, driveway count. So how many cars are going in and out of those locations. So that is studied and that is disclosed how many cars will be there. I'm not aware of anything specifically related to, headlights and things just related, kind of ancillary effects of auto traffic being adjacent to existing housing.
Yeah, all the reports that I've seen, talk about average trips, and from a macro city perspective, that makes sense when you're trying to figure out if the roadways are large enough. From a development standpoint, someone's going to get pinched, right? And I hope that you're just not dumping it on the 4 or 5 homes around each of these entrances.
Any comment on that, Jonathan?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. Thanks for your comment, Ryan.
Okay, that was Ryan Yamasaki, board member. A couple of other board members have popped up with questions. Rich Craigie, I'm giving you a prompt to unmute. There you go. Go ahead.
Hi, Jonathan. I have a quick question for you. I'm just scanning through this while we're talking. And we discussed pretty early that there was some possible tribal cultural sites that were on site here. And I see that this is reporting, finding several of them, but there's only one that says that it's recommended to avoid, and it gives a code. I understand that the locations are classified, but do we have any idea here on the board here what that general area is, so we can look and say, yes, your project is avoiding those areas, or do you even know where the area is? Or, I'm just wondering how I can evaluate just that area that you're recommended to avoid.
Sure. Yeah. Good question, Rich. So the way that it works with tribal resources is the tribes don't like to disclose the locations of them for obvious reasons. People can go and then desecrate them. And so what they do is the city works confidentially with the tribe to make sure that they can make a determination that we've avoided it. So I don't know where they are. They just say you either have avoided it or you've impacted it and you need to take certain steps. So when the city has determined less than significant, that means they've consulted with the tribe and that they have determined that we're not impacting that area.
Got it. So then I guess my question would just be, this would be something I would address in my questions to say, hey, ensure these areas are addressed appropriately. I get.
Absolutely. That's a very appropriate comment on the EIR, Rich.
All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. So there was another question from Robert Mallory regarding an explanation for Appendix T vested tentative map, page 7 of 62, small font highlights an irrevocable offer to dedicate Unit 7 Lot 1 park property deed to the city. Are you aware of that? And can you explain what that means, Jonathan?
Yeah, all that means is that that will be a public park. That's it. So we're giving that land to the city so they can operate it as a public park. That's all.
So that's Unit 7 then, which is between Royal Melbourne Square and Stonygate Place with Shoal Creek Drive on the I guess that would be the east side of that. Is that right?
That's correct, Eric.
Okay, thank you. Kurt, you're unmuted. You said you had a question.
Yeah, and just real quick about that park, Jonathan, there's no access vehicular to that park. Is that correct?
No, there is vehicular access plans, at least to get into the park area. But the idea is that this is a neighborhood serving park as opposed to a regional amenity. So of course people drive to the recreation center to take advantage of that. The idea is this would be more like a pocket park or a smaller area that people would walk to.
So yeah, I had a question, but I wanted to make sure everybody saw that I did post where I found the building, kind of like a site plan that's on the mobility analysis, pages 95, 96, and 97. It's Appendix C, local mobility analysis. If anybody wants to see the building footprints, that's the only thing that I've found that does show that. They look like row houses, not very creative. But the comment I had regarding the buffer, Jonathan, on the landscape plans was that, we've been going back and forth with you about the width of the buffer. And on your landscape plans, okay, we had, even in your design guidelines, I should say, is that you talk about within this 50-foot buffer is going to be landscaping, correct?
Yes, Kurt, there will be landscape.
And in some cases, there will be a trail. But on your landscape plans, you have not landscaped the 50-foot buffer completely. You're showing a dashed line showing the trail. You show some landscape, minimal landscaping, like where there are slopes or something like that, but you're not committing any landscape on plans to that adjacent to all those homeowners within your 50-foot buffer zone. So can you explain why there's no landscaping in those 50-foot buffer zones right now? And there's a lot of them, by the way.
So the buffers are required to be landscaped per the design guidelines. Certain landscaping and vegetation is shown in this initial design phase, and then more refined construction drawing will be provided during final design. And so that's how the process will work.
There's no way for you to just say and note that on your plans by saying, future landscape will be done on future construction plans. I've seen that done before on other plans, just, like city requesting that just in case the developer switches hands and somebody else comes along. There's no evidence in place, making that a requirement. Do you not agree?
Yeah, we think we've got pretty clear language in the design guidelines, as well as landscape performance standards that indicate that those areas, especially the landscape only zone and the adjacent areas, they definitely will be landscaped. They're required to be landscaped. That's our intent. But I'll talk to our team, Kurt, about that note. That's not something we'd heard of, but I'm happy to talk to our folks about that.
Okay, that's all I had, Eric.
All right, and then Robert Mallory asks any other units. I'm assuming he's asking if there are any other units being deeded to the city.
Yes, there are approximately 8 acres of public parks in the project. So there are 3 new parks, and those occur in Unit 7, as Robert indicated, Unit 16, and south of Ted Williams in Walden at Unit 13.
Okay, and John Chu has a question. I'm going to unmute him, and then we're going to move on to CMR United, and we're going to schedule a golf course subcommittee meeting. And where did John go?
I'm already unmuted. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
Sent it to me earlier. So I think the big difference between this project and a lot of other projects going on in the city, including golf courses across the county, is that this particular project obviously goes between a lot of other, units and houses are backed up to it. So Jonathan, are you willing to make any commitment that each unit that's being developed, will you have a meeting with the local homeowners that surround that unit to get their feedback? Because obviously if we have one giant meeting that covers every single unit, it's going to take forever. So I think it would make a lot more sense and a lot be more efficient if each unit's homeowners have a say in the process.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, John. So certainly, we've been here at this community planning group. We've been at the CPG subcommittee meeting. We've had probably a dozen meetings with individuals, sub-associations, folks kind of throughout the community, met with folks in Walden, met with folks that live adjacent to the Unit 16 park on Eastbourne more recently. So we have work to talk to as many people as we can. I don't know that I can get to every single homeowner that lives on the golf course, but we feel confident that we've been accessible, and irrespective of how you feel about the project, that we've been here both at this board, at the subcommittee. We've had meetings with the master HOA and others, and so we've done our best to engage with as many folks as we can.
Thank you, Jonathan. One last question from Robert Mallory before we move on, and I think this has been asked before, and I'm curious as well. What is the plan for the parcels not included in the project plan? They're listed in the design documentation, the golf course maintenance facility parcel, and several others owned by PACS enterprises that are included for rezoning, but not part of the Trails housing development. Are you aware what is the plan for those parcels?
So I think this question most frequently arises about the maintenance building. There's been a lot of speculation about the maintenance building and what would happen there. The maintenance building is encumbered by significant SDG&E easement, amongst other things. So we're not purchasing that area. We have no plans to develop it. It is, I think, very unlikely that it would be subject to development in the future, but we have no plans to do that, and it's not part of the project as proposed. So I don't know if there's any. I'm not aware of any other plan by ownership or anyone else to develop those areas at this time.
Thank you. All right, folks. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to our next agenda item to keep us moving. We're gonna schedule a subcommittee meeting. Oh, and before I do move on, Jonathan, I guess so February 8th ends the period for the ability for the public to raise issues with the EIR. And is that the same for the planning group? Or are we also supposed to raise any issues with that at this time, or are we? I know we're being asked for our recommendation down the line, but are we supposed to? And maybe this is a question better directed to Tony at the city, but from your perspective and knowledge as a community planning board chair, having been through development in your own community, is the community planning group supposed to directly respond to the EIR, or are we not?
Yeah, so you as a group would have the ability to submit comments on the EIR on behalf of the planning group, of course, or you could determine that you'd rather submit those comments as individuals. So either are acceptable, Eric. Either method is possible, provided you do so by the deadline.
Sounds like a long subcommittee meeting on the horizon. Okay, thank you. All right, Kurt, I'm gonna defer this comment on buffers to a different time. We've talked about it tonight, and we're going to talk about it at the subcommittee meeting, and I'm sure we'll get to that again. But we do have to move on to Troy Dahm of CMR United, who has asked to speak to us tonight, and I'm looking for. I saw him. Well, I saw his. Well, okay, here you are. Gotcha. Troy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Eric, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here. I know that, first of all, let me say thank you to all of the community volunteers. This is sort of like David and Goliath. You know, we're giving our time. We care about our communities. We want them to be excellent communities. And I think we can do better than this. I really do. I want to thank our new elected officials also for being here. It's most appreciated. By way of history, you should know that this has been a one-way street. It hasn't been an interaction. It's been the LA developer telling us, this is what you get. You're going to get 1,200 units. Eric's committee put forth, and it's in the appendix of the document. I've spent 3 hours reading this document. And let me tell you something. There's probably 8 more hours to read, and make absolutely no doubt, there are lots of very detrimental environmental impacts with this project. This is a bad project. The actual EIR states that there are a total of 4 different options. The 1,200 units, there's 825 unit option. And I'd like to share, that has never been discussed, ever. This is the first time we've ever seen a smaller unit availability. There's a option with higher buildings and same number of units. And there's a no development option. And you're listening to the developers share with you their opinions on an environmental impact report. And let me tell you, there's a lot of different experts that have lots of problems with this environmental impact report. It's controversial. It's a massive infill project. And, you know, they love to characterize us. We saw this at the last meeting where they say, Carmel Mountain United, my name is Troy Don of Carmel Mountain United, and I don't want, you know, people in my backyard. That couldn't be further from the truth. That is absolutely untrue. And that's true of all of us. We are reasonable, smart people. And these ideas are old development ideas that come from Los Angeles. And San Diego is not Los Angeles. We love our community. And not just Carmel Mountain, but our whole community, because we can look and see the mountains. Not every part is paved over. It's part of the fabric of our neighborhoods and a big part of CEQA. And God bless CEQA. We have CEQA to protect us. And there's a lot we can do with this. And one of them is community character. The community character is going to be forever changed. This is a majority rental unit. We're a majority ownership unit. We have a vast majority of single family houses. This has no single family houses. So there's lots of problems, and some of them were mentioned, but they're significant and they're unmitigatable, and they need to be tested. And that's what we need to do right now. So far, I know people are beaten up, but you know, we have hope here. This is our chance right now. This is our opportunity. And Eric, absolutely, your group needs to write a letter. CMR United will write a letter. We're going to ask the HOA to write a letter. And all of you individuals should read and write a letter about what your concerns are, because we have an opportunity to change this. And let me finish by saying that the world has changed, Jonathan. The world has changed. And what has changed? Retail, shopping, brick and mortar are dying. Online shopping is exploding. In our retail spaces, we're going to have massive amounts of vacancies. And we could take these 3- and 4-story buildings and put them on top of the retail, and you have already all of the infrastructure. Unlike your plan, where on unit 6, as an example, you're trying to flatten the hill, massive amount of grading. You're going to build up the bottom of the hill, flatten out to make a pad. Then you got to add all the infrastructure, and that all costs money. See, these units aren't going to be affordable. These are going to be very expensive. Yes, there'll be a handful that's required by the city to be deed restricted, but it doesn't really solve the problem. You see, it's not about affordable housing. It's about greed and money. That's what it's about. Now, if we were to build in retail shopping centers, we could absolutely get 100% behind that. Furthermore, COVID has changed the world. Look, I own a company, and smart companies have people staying home and working from home. And going forward, we're going to sign much smaller leases. There'll be all kinds of office space available to be redeployed as homes. We can solve this problem in a smart way, an affordable way. This is a great way to look at this. And we've got new city leadership that are looking for smarter ways to do things. We're not looking for the Los Angeles solution where we pave over our very precious open space that we love in San Diego. So we need to fight back on this. I'm asking all of you with my heart contact your elected officials, write on this EIR. This is our chance, you see, because this is, the city has to listen. This is a legal requirement. And we're going to pick it and find some holes in this. So with that said, I'll conclude my remarks and thank all of you for giving your time. It's most appreciated, and we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. I notice Deborah Fontaine has a hand up, and I'm not sure if that was from before or comment or question related to Troy's comments. I'm sending an unmute prompt. I think that might be Larry Fontaine, but it says Deborah. So Larry or Deborah, if you need to unmute, I am asked to unmute. I may have actually remuted you. Are you there, Larry?
I am there.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand up before. Was this a question for Jonathan or statement or comment?
No, this is a question actually for Jonathan, and I don't know if we've gone by that stage yet or not.
Well, I missed your hand, so I'll circle back to you and allow you to ask that question, please.
All right, Jonathan. Good evening. I'm going to go back to the setback and the noise that this is going to cause. And as I look at the draft EIR on around page 470, it talks that there's going to be a considerable amount of noise from the mechanical HVAC equipment. I'll go back to Kurt's remarks. I mean, it's still, we haven't seen any plans. We don't know where the buildings are going to be. Myself, I live on Eastbourne, so I'm looking at this 50-foot setback. And even though I'm doing a lot of modifications to the backyard, putting in shrubbery and stuff like that, it's not going to be able to begin to, be a defense against if your 4-story building goes in there. And I'm only one resident, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that have got this completely the same situation. As a side note, you talked about, you even mentioned, Eastbourne Road. You said you communicated with a lot of the residents. You and I had a couple of emails back and forth, but, the minute I asked you a specific question on, where the buildings were, or, even if you had any type of sketch, you completely went dark on me and never responded to me again. So, I found that pretty disappointing. I really don't know how the city planning or city council can, even consider voting on something when they can't see where all the buildings are. And you've got over 200 homes that sit on the golf course. All of those people want to see what's going to be in their backyard. And you would be in the same boat if you lived on the golf course. That's only one thing. Certainly the fire evacuation is a major concern. So, I, along with everybody else, urge people to read this report. I mean, it's long, it's lengthy. I've spent 3 hours looking at it. Please write a response. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Kurt, we're going to come back to that question on the fencing of the trails. We're going to get a golf course subcommittee meeting scheduled pretty quickly here because Yeah, to Jim Peters points out that there are closer to 700 homes on the golf course. So that is true. Thank you, Jim. Okay, so like just okay, Jonathan is not going to address questions about lot premiums that were paid, and Jonathan, I'm assuming that you're not going to comment on the question of, people who paid lot premiums 21 years ago and so forth, and how New Urban West may or may not mitigate that. I mean, it's a question that came up in the chat, and it's one that's come up before, and it's one that you've either not been able to or declined to answer. So I'm just going to give you an opportunity to comment on that if you can see that question in the chat, and then I'm going to move on.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Certainly we understand, and I recognize that there are many homeowners that live on the golf course, but a homeowner that lives on a golf course would never contemplate or imagine the golf course would go out of business and be replaced by housing. So I can't speak to premiums or agreements that were made previously when people bought homes, but our objective is to bring in amenities and in a project that enhance the neighborhood and that provide amenities like a 6.5 mile trail network, like 8 acres of parks, so we're 110 acres of open space, et cetera. So that's our objective. But Eric, you're correct. I can't speak to agreements that were made several decades ago.
Okay, and if anyone has any further questions or comments directly for Jonathan on issues like that, feel free to contact him directly. And Troy, I appreciate you being here tonight for CMR United. And I didn't see anybody in the comments or hands raised that had questions directly to you. I do see lots of people thanking you and applauding you for your remarks, in case you can't see that. So people do appreciate what you had to say tonight. So thank you. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next agenda item, which is I'm going to see if I can put my video back on here. I've had my video off because I didn't want the whatever it was to crash the meeting again. But for the conclusion here, yeah, here we go. That's better. Okay. They always say to have the camera up and not looking up from underneath. Anyway, moving on to the chair's report for the meeting tonight, I just wanted to mention that in my email that went out to everyone that I have emails for in the community, I mentioned March elections, which happen every March. There are elections for the planning group. And I know at least one of our board members who is up for re-election has already mentioned to me that they are not going to continue. So we are likely to have available seats. And I'm going to put this out on Nextdoor as well, as I'm required to announce elections on an additional public platform. Used to be a newspaper, but of course, Nextdoor is sort of become that in the community. So that'll go out on Nextdoor the same way it did last year and has in the past. There are likely to be available seats. So if you have an interest, please contact me. Another thing that's happening right now is, of course, with the COVID situation and not being able to meet in person, all of our bylaws regarding elections are currently geared towards the in-person meeting, which isn't occurring. So later on this month at the large community planner committee meeting, which is the meeting that occurs monthly with all of the planning group chairs from around the city, there's something on the order of 42 or 43, or maybe it's 52. There's a lot of community planning groups just like ours throughout the city, and we meet every month, and the city is going to be getting us some special guidance for how to conduct the elections this year in the virtual world. So that is more to come on that, but just be aware that March elections are coming. And if you have an interest in joining the group, please let me know. My seat is one that is up for re-election, and I think I have to announce if I'm running again by February. And I've whined and complained to some of you about how I'm not going to. I don't know. I think it's highly likely that I'm going to run again, just because I feel some responsibility to stick around and see this project, at least see this project through to its conclusion. I'm kidding. Run. Of course you guys want me to run. Nobody wants to do this job. No, it's honestly it's been it's an honor to be able to serve the community of Carmel Mountain Ranch, the place that I've lived and loved for so long, and fought so hard to be here all these years. Because as all of you that live here know, it's not cheap. So and working in a strictly commissioned sales business, I've got to hustle to stay here. So it does mean a lot to me to be here. So it's an honor to serve with you and for all of you. So with that, we'll let you know more about elections upcoming, and we will definitely get a notice about golf course subcommittee meeting real quickly here, because as people have pointed out, we've got 3.5 weeks to do any kind of letter on this EIR, and that is just not a lot of time. And the timing of the EIR was sort of unfortunate, because it dropped in my lap, like, I guess maybe it was the 23rd of December, or at least I didn't actually get it until after Christmas. I know it was dated the 23rd, but I didn't get it on the 23rd. Other people did forward it to me, though, not the city. So that was odd. But just the dropping it on us, and I'm not really blaming anybody for that, other than just, I guess, bad timing on the city's part, or a rush to get it out before only the city does things like that. That's it's a classic government move, right? Where you drop something on somebody on a Friday night or Christmas Eve or whatever. Anyway, I'm not gonna opine on that any longer. I did want to take another couple of minutes here on the chair's report to notify or let the community know, I guess, that I became aware just before Christmas that our former chairperson, John Giltner, had passed away. John was he was the chairperson of the group a long time ago, prior to the group. The group, if for those of you that don't know, the city had deactivated us at a point because we had not enough members to hold a meeting with a quorum. And it wasn't until the golf course issue came up in July of 2018 that we were able to get enough interest back in the community planning group to reactivate it. And we've been an active group again since October of 2018. And it was actually John that was extraordinarily helpful to me in that effort, because John was a guy who he just read everything. He read, he digested, and he knew the rules. And he was just a guy that really cared about detail. And so when I received, I don't know, it was something like 14 pages of special election instructions from the city attorney's office in whenever it was August or September of 2018. I looked at that, and the first thing I thought was, you know, John Giltner's the guy to head the special election subcommittee and help us with this. And he did so unquestioningly, and he did so without even wanting a spot on the board. It was, I believe at the time, whoever headed the special election subcommittee couldn't be up for election. And I know John loved, he loved being on the board. And I know he loved running the meetings. He wasn't always easy, but he was a force to be reckoned with. And he has passed away. So we're, I don't know, hopefully we can find a way to honor him somehow in Carmel Mountain Ranch. I know we've had other past board chairpersons. Joetta Mihalovich comes to mind. She was the planning board chairperson all the way back in 2005 when my wife and I first became aware of the board and involved, and she passed away. And I believe there's a plaque for her at the library. And then there's a plaque at the corner of, there's actually a bench and a plaque at the corner of Camino del Norte and Carmel Mountain Road, where there's a large patch of grass and a bench there. It's a landscaped corner. And this gentleman, Bob Mary, would come to the meetings often and basically kept up the fight to get that corner landscaped. It used to just be, you know, really cruddy looking. Anyway, they dedicated a bench to him there after he passed away. So I'll kind of reach out to Jack in the councilman's office to see if there's any way we can just sort of honor John's memory and his dedication to our community. So that's the chair's report from me. And I did reach out to John's widow, Linda, and expressed our sympathies to her directly. So that's been done. But I think as a community, it would be nice to recognize him again. He wasn't always easy. In the last the last time he came to a meeting, I think I had to cut him off because he piped in on something that wasn't germane or whatever. And, you know, I did exactly what he would have done if I had done that to him. And then he made a comment about not liking my beard or something. And that was unfortunately the last interaction I had with him. So would have been nice to have a different conversation, but I suppose somewhat fitting that was the last time we interacted. So anyway, that's it from my corner. And having no old business and no new business and no action items, I think that we are. And I'm sorry. Let me make sure there's no other. I'm gonna turn my video off so I can have my hands back.
Jim Peters has something to say, Eric.
Okay, great. Let me find Jim.
Yeah,
Jim?
thanks guys, and so sorry to hear about John, and not to be the bearer of more bad news, but I felt it was appropriate to share with you all, you know, my dear friend and neighbor of 30 years, Harold Klotz, who many of you know.
Oh no.
Lost his wife Joan in December. And
oh no.
Why, I'm sure that's partially why Harold's not here. Joan was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer on November 15th, and she died literally within 4 weeks, almost, maybe 5. You know, I was with her the last day before she died with her children, and it was just so sudden. And so, I mean, we were, you know, just seeing her out walking to, you know, in the fall, and we were so cautious of COVID. And Harold and Joan are very reserved you know, people, wonderful families, but they really stayed to themselves, but have been the best neighbor any of us could have asked for 30 years. I mean, you all know how passionate Harold's been about this community for ever since the day he's lived here. And so I would just ask that you keep him in particular in your prayers. Feel free to reach out to him. He's in pretty darn good spirits considering he's a strong man, and you know, he and I've been walking a little bit. But anyway, I just wanted you all to know, because I know how much you all care about Harold, and so please pray for him and his family.
Yes, thank you for letting. I had no idea, Jim, that had happened. And I'm really, boy, that's.
Yeah, it was pretty. They were super sudden, and it was just, you know, I mean, all of our neighbors. We have like 4 original owners up here. Harold's one of them, and you know, like I say, he's been my neighbor for 30 years. So
Yeah.
You know, like
Well,
family. But
yeah, Harold is like the board member we never had. He helps us so much.
Yeah.
And never really asks much of anything in return, and doesn't really seek the spotlight at all, but so incredibly helpful. I really can't overstate how much of an asset he is to the community.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I was already getting emotional talking about John, and now that's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, you know, I think,
you know, I brought it up because I know there's a lot of really good people on this call that know him, and you know, as hard as it will be for you, take 5-10 minutes and just call him and just say, hey man, I just want you to know that, you know, I heard the sad news about your wife, but you know, you've done so much for this community. If you need anything, let me know. And I'm sure it'll mean the world to him. So, you know, that's the only reason I brought it up. And, you know, let's leave on a good note. I thank everybody for all you've done for this community. Everybody on this call, I know how much you're passionate about our community. You know, it's a shame that, you know, they're trying to shove 1,200 units down us, but I do think we can get it reduced. I think we can, you know, the too tall, too many, too close, I still think has some legs. And, you know, let's just keep pushing forward, and thank you for all your efforts. I really appreciate it.
thank you, Jim. Thank you for letting all of us know about that. And I will certainly reach out to him directly.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, guys, folks. I just want to make sure I'm not leaving anything on the table here, but I think that's there was something else I was going to say, but I forget what it is, and I'll think of it and say it next time. So I appreciate everybody being here tonight, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. So meeting is adjourned.